The following episode of Beat the Shift with Greg Rawlings is going to be a heavy Atlanta Braves episode. That's right. 2021 baseball season has come to a close and the Atlanta Braves are world champions. So Greg went out and found the best he could on social media of all Braves groups and brought them together to talk about the historic season and the Atlanta Brave world champions. This is Beat the Shift with Greg Rawlings.
Gentlemen, welcome to the show, this special edition of Beat the Shift with Greg Rawlings. This is a special fan edition of the Atlanta Braves. We're going to hit on all things Braves related, touch on the Braves' magical season, and we're going to also dive into the off-season predictions here. So, gentlemen, how you doing?
Doing pretty good.
So we have Jerry Allman from Braves Support Group. It's the first Braves group I've ever been a part of. I've been in the group now for about 5 years, and well-run group. They don't put up with no nonsense, and they just do their thing. It's a very close-knit group, and they've been taking care of business for quite some time. So how you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing great. We also have Jordan Poulon from Tomahawk Talk. I've been in a lot of contact with a lot of you guys there on Tomahawk Talk. I actually met several of you guys down in Atlanta over these few games I've been to. I met Amir at the World Series game, and I've talked a lot with Greg Harp, and we actually talked on opening day doing a special Braves episode. So how you doing, Jordan?
We did, Greg, and all the anxiety we had right before the season start has come to this. So good to be back on here with you.
Under the best circumstances, right? Don't get no better.
Right. Yeah, we're going to beat the shift.
There you go. And then lastly, we have Sam Peebles on from the Atlanta Braves Dugout Group. This is a group that I've recently joined, but I enjoy the content, and I've actually talked to you and Brady a few times now on Messenger, and we've been supporting each other cross-functionally. So how you doing?
Doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to just jump right into it. And they say there's no crying in baseball. I'll start with you, Sam. Did you get emotional the other night? How was it for you when you watch it happen?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't shed a tear. I mean, my tears were welling up in my eyes, and 26 years is a long time. I barely remember when they won it last time. I was 6 years old, and so the Braves have been a lot to me throughout my entire life. They've been a huge part of my life, and to see them finally make it through this rebuild and win it the way that they did, it was extremely emotional. So yeah, I definitely got emotional.
Jerry, what about you, man? When you saw Dansby throw that over to Fred and he threw his hands up, I mean, what was going through your head?
More excitement than anything. I don't remember the 1995 series simply because of the age and everything. I really didn't start following the Braves of baseball until the late 90s. So this was actually my first experience with the Braves winning the World Series. So I was, more excitement than anything. I was there watching the game with my dad, who's actually an Orioles fan, but roots on the Braves when they're not playing his Orioles. And we both were very excited about the last out being made.
What about you, Jordan? I'm pretty sure you're like me. You remember 95.
Oh, vividly. And not just remember that the happiness of 95, but all the hurt since then. There's a video on Twitter of just all the hurt from 96 on, and all that just kind of came pouring out at that last out. My wife secretly recorded my reaction without me knowing it. So I've always got that to stay. But yeah, I do remember I was 14 years old. I was in high school. Stayed up for every second of it, and thought there would be a lot more, and we just haven't gotten it until now, and it was worth the wait.
I mean, absolutely. I didn't realize until I saw the stat the other day that 20 straight postseasons without a World Series, and that was the record all time. It's like the Bills where they went 4 years in a row. We're like reliving that every single year with heartbreak. And I mean, I got it that we go, but it's like you're just destined for failure, and you know it's coming, and it's like a train. You can't make it stop.
Yeah, I mean, and most of those, Greg, never even making it out of the first round.
Yeah,
just hurt after hurt after hurt.
Absolutely. So, hey, Jerry, I'm going to start with you on this one. Other
Okay.
than winning it all, what do you think the biggest surprise was of the 2021 season?
The biggest surprise was for me. I mean, I'd say losing the fact that we had all the injuries, losing Ronald Acuna before right before the break, our best player, and then being able to go, and we were playing under 500. We couldn't get over 500 even at that point. And then Alex Anthopoulos made all these deals and really, and then we starting in August is when we really started playing well. And so I think the biggest surprise was the fact that we even made the postseason to begin with all the injuries and everything we've been going on. I guess we're thankful we were in the correct division.
Absolutely. I mean, it definitely didn't have the feel of like, oh, we're going to make a deep postseason run, but it's all about gelling at the right time. And he got 4 outfielders because Acuna went down. And let's be real, he probably wouldn't have done that had Acuna been healthy. He may have went and got a piece or two, but every single piece that we got gelled and it worked with this team. So
exactly, they all contributed in a big way to help us get to the point. And even once we get to the playoffs, you got Jock Peterson was the reason we passed the division series, and then we have Rosario's the reason we got through the NLCS, and then of course we had Jorge Soler is a big reason we won the World Series. So they all contributed throughout the entire postseason.
Absolutely. Well, what about you, Sam? Do you have anything to add to that? Biggest surprise for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise to me is that Alex Anthopoulos was able to pull off that magic and get those players. I'm really deep into trade acquisitions and stuff like that. I write articles on them all the time. And so I'm very deep into the type of trades that people make. And the Jorge Soler trade was probably the biggest surprise I've seen in years. And as we saw in the World Series, he was the difference maker. One of them, a huge difference maker. And I think the biggest surprise is that the Braves got massively better without mortgaging any of their future, essentially, and basically just taking on salary dumps and taking salary dump players in the analytics department that the Braves had to be able to see that Jorge Soler was going to come to the Braves and tear the world apart. To me, the biggest surprise was the amount of surplus value they got out of those trade acquisitions with the little amount that they gave.
I mean, absolutely. Soler absolutely looked like the dude that led the American League of Home Runs with 48. When he came to us, it's like a whole different player. He flipped the script real quick. What about you, Jordan? You got anything to add?
Yeah, a couple of they've mentioned it already. The guys that we lost, the guys that we got, but just looking at the guys we got, the experience they brought. I mean, Jock Peterson. I don't know if he's the first guy to do it, but back-to-back World Series on 2 different teams. Adam Duvall was with us last year during the playoff run, and Soler has World Series experience too. So, to get those 3 guys who have been there and done it and know how to win was the biggest surprise for me. And then on top of that, just the bullpen. I mean, if you told me that we would go into the Houston series and lose Morton after 2 innings and have 2 starting pitchers and win that game in 6, I would have put a lot of money against it. So just what the bullpen did throughout the whole playoffs is incredible. Who would have thought Will Smith would not give up a run all postseason? Neither did Madsick. I mean, these guys were just lights out.
The 3-headed lefty monster, man. All 3 of them. You even throw in AJ Minter. I know he looked kind of rough towards the end. He was probably getting tired, but throughout the whole playoffs, man, he was solid too.
Yeah, I'm a numbers guy too. Kind of like Sam mentioned earlier. I also write for Braves Tama blog. If you guys ever have a chance to check them out. And I did an article about us after losses in the postseason, and the Braves were 5-0 in those losses. And if you look at our pitching, Minter, Will Smith, Tyler Madsick, none of them gave up a run after coming off of a loss in the playoffs. Just incredible.
Yeah, so I kind of piggyback off of that because there's a really good point on the relief pitching, and I think the one thing that we learned this season is that you just kind of need to trust the process, because winning teams, how they continue to be good is they get better as the season goes along. So when Brian Snicker was throwing out guys like Nate Jones and Edgar Santana and Jacob Webb and guys like that, it wasn't because he was trying to just sabotage the Braves. It was they were finding the right bullpen mix for when they did make the postseason. And then when you look at those guys, on top of that, guys like AJ Minter, guys like Will Smith, they were pitching way better. If you look at their underlying metrics, they were pitching way better than their actual true outcome. So over time, they would start pitching better. And Brian Snicker trusted the analytics department. He trusted the people around him, especially in the postseason. And the results came to fruition at the right time. And it was a beautiful thing.
I'm glad you brought up Snit, because think about this, 45 years. Imagine being in a job for 45 years and you reach the mountaintop after that amount of time. He's done everything in the Braves organization, from the minor leagues to the big leagues. He's been the third base coach. He's mentored under Bobby Cox. I mean, I love the fact he's the second oldest manager to ever win his first World Series behind Jack McKeon. I feel so good for Brian Snicker. I know he gets crapped on a lot on social media and around some Brave circles because they just feel like the game's passed him by. It's the stuff I see, not that I agree with it, but I feel like he's done a nice job mixing in analytics and sticking to his gut and not doing one or the other and kind of mixing and matching. So I appreciate the job he's done. What do you think, Jordan?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you ask any guy in that clubhouse and they would run through a wall for him. And you didn't see that with Freddy Gonzalez, but you saw it with Bobby Cox. And he's from that tree, and he's done a good job adapting to the analytics, and he's done a really good job of not letting his pride as a winning baseball manager get in the way of this analytic movement that we see. And he's kind of allowed that to naturally occur while developing these relationships inside the clubhouse with these guys. It's incredible.
What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I was going to say something. I'll be the first to admit, I mean, I'm not a huge Snit fan. Strategically, I feel like at times he can, I'm not crazy about some of his pitching matchups that he does. But with that said, during the postseason, I felt like he had a really, really good postseason as far as managing. I mean, all moves won't work out one way or the other. I mean, you make certain moves, you're always going to be crapped on. But I felt like he outmanaged both Dave Roberts and, in a way, Dusty Baker. Although Dusty Baker didn't have a terrible World Series, but I felt like he outmanaged both those two good managers. And with some of the moves he made compared to some of the moves they made. So, I mean, I felt like, this was a much-deserved victory for him, a much-deserved World Series for him. And I know all the players love him. And I know this is a good human being, because I know he's a very, very good person, and which is a big reason why all the players love him.
Sam?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point. I do think that he outmanaged the other managers. I think the one reason why a lot of people, and I was guilty of it, not being a huge fan of decisions he made, was because during the beginning of the season and last year and the year before, he was still really stuck in his old school ways. And I don't blame him. I mean, like you said, he's the second oldest manager to ever win a first World Series. So he's obviously going to be stuck in those ways. He's been in the organization for over 30 years. But the biggest thing was that around the May timeframe, he really started to take a step back, swallow his pride, and realize, hey, if we're going to win, maybe we should mix in some analytics. They went from the team that shifted the least to the team that shifted the most. And just because of that, they went from the worst defense in the league to the first time ever to not the first time ever, the team had the least amount of errors they've ever had for an entire season. Austin Riley went from the worst third baseman in the league to the best third baseman in the league defensively. And then he still was making some bad decisions as far as lineup optimization was going. Like Ozzie Albies should have never been batting third against a right-handed pitcher. But then we saw in the postseason, he gradually got better and better at meticulously picking his lineups, and they continued to get better and better and better. And so he was a perfect mix, like Jordan said earlier, about how he's going with his gut feeling, but he's also mixing in the analytics. And that's one of the things about analytics is it's really easy to get trapped into, okay, well, in this situation, statistically, we should do this. But analytics is really a measurement of a large sample size that you get all this information. When you're in a postseason, the sample size is completely different. The situation is completely different. And so you have to mix in some gut feelings. And that's one of the reasons why he outmanaged Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts was out there being a computer, essentially, 100% following the analytics, whereas Brian Snicker was following the analytics more, but he was also bringing in that old school approach of going with his gut feeling. And that ultimately, I believe, was a big flipping point for the Atlanta Braves versus the Dodgers. And he continued to do that against Houston as well.
I'm going to jump right back to you, Sam. This is the big question that everyone wants to know. Is Freddy staying or is he going? What's your prediction?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. My heart says he's staying, but I would not be surprised if he left. Just because after winning an MVP in 2020, after winning the World Series, after the Angels having lost the no longer having Pujols out there with that huge contract, he's going to be the most sought after first baseman in Major League Baseball. He would be dumb not to listen to offers, is all I'm getting at. I think that the odds are heavily in favor of him staying, but they're absolutely not 100% chance that he's going to stay.
What's your thoughts, Jerry?
This is a good question. I've always felt like there's no way the Braves can let him go. I mean, I agree. I think he will in the end listen to some offers. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're able to sign him just like that, maybe the 2 days after the parade is over. But I'm not sure that's going to happen though. Now I do believe he may listen to some offers, but at the same time, I think his heart is still in Atlanta, and I just have a tough time seeing him go. I keep telling everyone, even in my group, that he's not going anywhere. He's staying. The Braves, no way the Braves let him go.
Give us your gut, Jordan. What are we going to see?
He's not going anywhere, guys. He's Chipper Jones 2.0. He's a legend in Atlanta, and he wants to finish his career here. He said that over and over. He owes Atlanta nothing. That was a question that was brought up, and after he won the World Series, he's like, "Hey, I feel like I owed this organization that took a chance on me, when I was 17 years old. I felt like I owed it to them." He's just one of those guys. You can't picture him in another uniform. It's not going to happen. He's a Brave for life.
Let me counter with that. So I agree with that, and I hope that you're right. But the thing is we said the same thing about John Smoltz. We said the same thing about Javi Lopez. We said the same thing about Brian McCann. We said the same thing about Tom Glavine. I mean, just because they seem like Andrew Jones, just because we think and they look like a lifetime Brave, doesn't mean that it's going to happen, because the Braves want him back. I know that the Braves 100% want him back, and Freddy wants to come back. But we saw with John Smoltz, if the front office does not handle this delicately like they should, they could go into it assuming that he's going to take a hometown discount, and Freddie Freeman might not be willing to take that hometown discount. We don't know that for sure. So I can't say for 100% certainty. Based on history of other players, it's not 100% chance. I would say that it's very likely though.
And I'd like to add on that, if the Braves, if I feel like the Braves, what you're looking at is Paul Goldschmidt type money. So I feel like if the Braves can offer somewhere amount, even if it's just over what Paul Goldschmidt's making, I feel like that he'd accept that in a heartbeat and stay in Atlanta for that. So if the Braves have the money that they can offer somewhere around there, I feel like that he will in the long run stay in Atlanta.
So if the Braves offered more, like significantly more than what they gave Paul Goldschmidt, let's say it was a legitimate overpay, would you guys be fine with it?
That's a good question. I guess it depends on the type of overpay that they would give him. But I mean, if they had the funds to do it, I mean, I think I'd be willing to be okay with it. And it also depends. I mean, maybe they front load the deal. I don't know if they'd be able to front load the deal. And because I don't see him getting more than 5 years. Maybe they're looking at 5 or 6 years at his age that he's at. But yeah, I mean, I think I'd be okay with it.
Two things for me.
100%.
Two things for me is the fact that he's done everything he possibly could do in a Braves uniform. So what else is there to do? So I was like, when he won the World Series, I was thinking either this is the final chapter because there's nothing else to prove with the Braves. I might go cash out and get what I can get now before retirement, or it might just cement his legacy as the greatest Brave of all time. And like you said, Chipper 2.0, and be like, you know what, guys, I've already did everything I can do. I make enough money. You throw some money at me, comparable, and I'll stay. But I don't know. And then another thing, if you look at the back of Albert Pujols' baseball card after he left the St. Louis Cardinals, and I'm not saying Freddy's an Albert Pujols type player, because Freddy's swing, he's more of an oppo field type hitter. He's more slender than Albert Pujols. He hits for average. Pujols did too. But I feel like the long-term perspective of Freddie Freeman translates better than the later years of an Albert Pujols. But, I mean, there is that drop-off. And also, what do we do about the money we owe Ozuna still? I mean, that's a large chunk of money that's just sitting there, and we don't know what's going to happen with that yet.
I'll kind of counter something Sam said too, with all these former favorites leaving. They left in a different time. They left when we were heading towards down seasons. There wasn't a whole lot of reason for them to stay. Freddie has cemented himself as the cornerstone of this franchise, like Chipper did. Now, I don't think Freddie takes a hometown discount. AA is a shrewd negotiator. If he does not re-sign with the Braves, it will be because of Alex Anthopoulos, not because of Freddie Freeman.
I agree with that 100%.
And let's also remember that he's the only one that out of the that stuck around through all the bad years until the Braves could get good again. And they sat him down and talked to him about it, and he was willing to stick around through those years because he knew what was coming around the corner, that we were about to compete again. And so I could see him, like I said, I'm not going to say he's going to take a hometown discount. I mean, he deserves to make all the money he can make the years he's been having, the years he's had with the Braves. But I just have a tough time believing how Double-A Alex Anthopoulos won't pay up and keep Freddie in town.
One thing too that I was thinking about was that if you look at Freddie Freeman's numbers versus other first basemen in the Hall of Fame, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory statistically. But one thing that voters vote for, they tend to give more votes to people that stayed on the same team for longer than guys that moved around the league. So if Freddie Freeman, he's 32 years old, he's probably got about 8 years left. He could be thinking about the Hall of Fame votes at this point, And if he stays with the same team for the rest of his career and he declines a little bit, it's going to be in his favor for Hall of Fame votes. I know that players don't always think about that, but when you're that type of player that you could be getting Hall of Fame votes, it might be in the back of his mind.
And let's look back when him and Hayward were coming up, man. Everybody had all the hype around Hayward, and he was the can't miss guy. And at the end, the funny part is Freeman ended up being the cornerstone, and Hayward signed that huge deal in Chicago, and they've been regretting it ever since. So I know he's a great base runner and fielder, but he's not Freddie Freeman, man.
Right.
So unfortunately, we got some bad news on the horizon. The contract's running out, and there's talk of a work stoppage. So my question to you guys is, will they get a new contract? And if so, when will the season start? Will it start on time? And also your thoughts on a salary floor. So I'll start with you, Jordan.
Yeah, I do think they get things done. I think they have learned lessons from the NFL and the NBA and the hit in popularity that those sports took in their recent negotiations. So there are some things, I've heard DH coming to the National League, rookie salary scales. There's things that do have to get worked out. But I think it's a 95% chance it gets worked out and that there's no stoppage.
What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I keep going back how this is the longest consecutive sport that hasn't had a work stoppage in any of the sports. Of course, that was all under the previous commissioner, but most of that was. But I I look back at what happened in the pandemic last year, and the only reason I have my doubts about whether they get it in on time is because of all the fighting back and forth they had during the pandemic last year and trying to get the 60-game season in. And so I guess, I mean, all we can do is wait and see. I mean, my hope is, I mean, I'd put the number at about 90%. I'm maybe not as confident, but I feel like there's a good chance that they get it done by the time the season starts. I mean, I'm very confident they will.
What do you think, Sam?
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'd say there's about a 25% chance that they start on time. The Major League Baseball Players Association is the strongest players association in all of major sports. That's why all their contracts are guaranteed. That's why it took so long with all the negotiations. I mean, it took them forever to get a deal this past during the COVID season. They went back and forth forever. I just don't see it happening. I won't think it's going to be like a strike for the entire season, but I would say that front office executives are very leery about the season starting on time. I just don't see it happening.
I'm 100% with you, Sam. I feel like if I was going to bet on this, I would take the bet that we don't start on time. And I don't 25 is a bit, glass half empty in my opinion, but I think it's closer that we won't have it than we will, in my opinion. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Jordan and Jerry are right.
I hope I'm wrong too.
I mean, I can see why you guys think that. I mean, because I'm almost in this. I was back and forth on it, but I still have to. I'm still being optimistic. We'll get started on time.
So, Jerry, what about a salary floor? Sorry, go ahead, Jordan. What was you going to say?
Well, these sides do come to the table with experience because of last year, and there was a lot of strong wordage thrown around on both sides during the COVID shortened season. So I'm sure some of this was discussed then. And look at what they almost did to the game by not playing it. And that was in a pandemic. I just have to believe that they're going to get this thing ironed out. There's too much money to walk away from on both sides.
I got you. I hope you're right, buddy. So I'll just start with you again, Jordan. So the salary floor, like right now, the Dodgers have $100 million in payroll more than the second team. I mean, I'm not opposed to having them be able to spend whatever they want to spend, because God bless them. I don't think we need a cap on the upper end, but I do feel like there should be a floor for teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are making tons of money year after year, despite throwing like $30 million to their payroll. So I feel like there should be some type of floor for every team to at least have to vest back on the on-field product. Just my opinion. What do you think?
I do. I think on one hand, I think baseball is one of those sports where you can win with a cheap lineup. Look at the Tampa. Look at what the Rays have done through scouting and the draft. And but I think to make the game better, I think you do need to have a floor of signing. Yeah, the ticket prices aren't going down just because the Pirates stink every year. So the money is still coming in, and some of these owners are not putting that money back into their product, and it suffers. It makes the game suffer.
Jerry, you content, or think there needs to be a tweak there?
Yeah, it's tough because I mean it does make it tougher for the lower the teams that don't have the money, like the Pirates or the Royals, to be able to compete year in and year out, while you have the Dodgers and Yankees spending every year. I mean, I've always been one that believes there needs to be some type of cap, but then you look at teams like the Rays or like Jordan mentioned, or the Oakland A's, who seem to find ways to compete every single year through their minor league system and through trades. Not just through the minor league system, but through trades too. So I don't. But maybe there needs to be some type of floor to kind of help those lower teams. But I mean that's basically all I've got as far as that's concerned.
What you, Sam?
Hate to be the odd one out again, but I'm totally opposed. Major League Baseball leads all major sports in unique champions. They have, in the past 21 years, they have 16 unique champions, and they have had 21 different teams play in the World Series. The salary is not the issue. Okay, so the amount of money that a team spends does not directly translate into wins. It's the efficiency of how the money is used. And so if you were to ask me, would you rather have a $200 million payroll or a $100 million payroll with the best executive in the league? I will take the $100 million payroll to the best executive in the league 10 out of 10 times. In baseball, it's not about who has the best free agents. It's about the people that develop the best drafted players, make the best trades, and then fill the gaps with the free agents. Redundant free agents like the Dodgers have done, we've seen year after year, does not win championships. They won their first World Series since 1986 last year in a shortened season. Money does not translate into wins in baseball. Maybe it does in football. I'm not real deep into the salary cap and stuff in football, but let's just look at the football. Football's got a salary cap, but football has their version of the Pirates and the Jets. It's not about the money. It's about how the money's used.
And I like to piggyback off that because you've got a point there, because I look at teams like the Angels or the Phillies who spend all this money and then they never seem to make the playoffs despite the fact they're spending all this money. So you've got a point there. My whole issue is just the Dodgers and Yankees are being able to get basically any player they want to get.
But the Yankees haven't been to the World Series in over a decade.
And you're right about that too. So I guess I will just stop talking now and just let you continue.
Hey, and Sam, I agree with everything you said. Obviously, money it's not the end all of success, but I feel like there's certain teams, and I guess they don't care to draft well either. I don't know, but like the Pirates comes to mind. You got I'm trying to think of who else has been in purgatory forever, about a decade. I feel like the Royals have been there since the World Series run. Orioles,
how about your buddy there beside you, Greg?
Yeah, the Reds, of course. I got a Reds fan sitting in the background. That's why I had to get a jab in. But I don't know. The thing is, it's like I love PNC Park. I've been there several times, and it would be amazing to have that place have people in the seats, and it's a great ballpark. And I don't know. I'm not saying a huge cap, but maybe 50 million or something. But I'm not saying every team should be 100 million. But at least then you'd be kind of required to go out and maybe get a few pieces, to try to look competitive. At least look like you're trying to be competitive, I guess.
Well, here's the thing: winning directly results in revenue. So as we saw with the Braves, they've had some of the best revenue in the league. They win the World Series. They have massive revenue coming in. So winning generates money. If the Pirates aren't interested in generating money,
they're not.
Giving them more money is not going to result in more wins. It's just a poorly run organization.
All right. So my next question is Ronald Acuna obviously went down with that gruesome knee injury. He missed the playoff run. We saw him there towards the playoffs, cheering on the team. But AA went out and got 4 outfielders to remake the outfield. So my question is, with Acuna, will he be full health come spring training, or are we going to ease him back in? How's that looking on the injury front there, Sam?
From everything I'm reading, it doesn't look like he's going to be – there's no guarantee. He says he's feeling good, but odds are that they're going to ease him in there. I don't see why they would want to risk hurting him even more. They've already had bad luck with Mike Soroka. Why risk that again?
He needs to get a damn haircut. That's a god awful. Anyways, what have you heard anything different, Jordan? Pretty much what Sam said.
Yeah, there was a video going around at the World Series of Acuna and Bregman talking, and Bregman had asked him when he was going to be back, and he answered May. So if you go through February and March and spring training, probably you see him get a little bit of work in. You're going to have to get a stint in somewhere. But, I think he's probably looking at a month into the season.
You got anything to add, Jerry? Is that about what you're hearing as well?
No. When he first went down, I was telling everyone how he'll be ready by spring training. But the more I read things, I read some stuff, and I saw the same video he did, but I didn't actually watch the video, so I wasn't sure exactly what it was on it, which is unusual for me. But so everything I read and heard, I think it'd be May. I think they're going to ease him in. even if he is somewhat 100. They don't want to take a chance he injures himself again.
Right, I agree with that. So, of the 4 outfielders we traded for, I haven't looked at the contract perspective. Is any of them 4 under contract, or are they all free agents? Jordan, do you know?
Yeah, Jock and Duvall have options. Duvall has already opted out. But Duvall has a special clause where we can still have him under arbitration. Rosario and Soler are free agents.
Sam, if we bring any of those 4 guys back, how many do you think we bring back, and who do you think it'd be?
I think it goes in this order of most likely. It would be Adam Duvall first because of the arbitration thing. Because if the Braves want him, they have him. He doesn't have a choice because he's under arbitration. Now, do the Braves tender him a contract? They already didn't. They already non-tendered him last year, but his defense was insanely good this year. So they might want to bring him in, I think. And with the arbitration having to be so early, it's going to be interesting to see. I think the next most likely is probably Eddie Rosario because he can serve the field and with the bat, whereas Soler would be relegated to DH only if the National League does get a DH. And I would put Soler third most likely, and then Jock Peterson. He has a mutual option that's a $10 million mutual option. Those hardly ever get exercised by both sides. There's no way that the Braves are going to pay Jock Peterson $10 million to be a platoon player, and Jock Peterson probably doesn't want to be a platoon player. So I don't see Jock Peterson coming back unless he takes a massive pay cut, which I don't know why he would.
All right, Jerry. So your question for you is, who would you like to see him bring back? Not who do you think they will? Well, who's the 2 out of the 4 you'd like to see come back first?
Well, I have my 3 guys. I mean, Jock Peterson. I think Jock Peterson for the most part will be a bench guy if he comes back, platoon/bench guy if he came back. I think the 2 I would be looking at. I love Duvall's defense. I would love for them to re-sign both Eddie and Soler, but I don't think they're going to be able to get all 3. So if I had to pick 2, I would say Duvall and Rosario, simply because the same reason Sam said, Duvall's defense, and then the Rosario can play the field somewhere. Soler's pretty much mostly going to be a DH guy.
I agree. So Sam, this is another question coming off of an injury. Mike Soroka, what should we expect in 2022?
I believe I was hearing somewhere around he'd come in around the May or June timeframe. So hopefully by then, I mean, can you imagine this rotation with him coming in? Pull the whole what's his name? Chip Carey. It's like upgrading at the trade deadline, you know. But yeah, it's gonna be fantastic once they get him back. Yeah, I'm thinking probably around. They definitely are not going to rush him back for obvious reasons, but I'm thinking probably around May or June.
And then what about Morton with that with his leg? So is he going to be ready?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, broken fibula. He'll be back in time.
Jordan, you heard anything different?
Hey, the dude pitched on it while it was broken. I assume he's going to do just fine with it healed.
Striking out Altuve to end it before he went out too. That was pretty sweet.
That was sick.
All right, so my last question, or not my second to last question. So we got Will Smith closed all year. Like you said, he's not a typical type closer. He's more of a bend don't break for the most of the regular season, and then in the playoffs he was absolutely lights out. But so are they content with him next year as a closer? Because to me, like Tyler Matzik, he looks more of like a traditional like type closer to me. But do you think they're content with the bullpen? I mean, obviously the postseason they dominated, but over a full season again, do you think the upgrade there, or think we see more of the same? I'll start with you, Sam.
That's a good question. To be honest with you, I'm going to say I don't know on that one.
What about you, Jerry?
If I had a guess, because of the way it ended and the 11 scoreless innings, I think they'll start the year with Will Smith closing and then Matzik being maybe the top setup guy, and then seeing how it goes. Maybe they also base it on how they do in spring training. But if I had a guess, I would say Will Smith at least starts the year closing, and then and then you see how it goes. I mean, Snicker's one of those guys that doesn't like to change too much, even from year to year. So that's kind of what I see moving forward next year.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm so conflicted on this is because mid-year Snicker, I would have said 100% it'd be Will Smith, because Brian Snicker is real big on labels. Well, we signed him to be the closer, so he's going to be the closer. But as we saw as the season progressed, Brian Snicker is getting more and more into the analytics and letting the analytics department and his advisors kind of give him advice and take the advice. So it's going to be really interesting to see.
Hey, and Jordan, you and I talked off air about Will Smith. I feel like he's one of those guys. He's not content until he goes full count on every single hitter that he faces. He nibbles, and then finally something happens. But do you see him coming back as the closer? I would think so, but what do you think?
He's just the perfect closing pitcher for an Atlanta sports fan, right? You know, he has to make it interesting. But I think he is. The only way that I see him not as a closer, there's one guy out there that I would love to see in a Braves uniform, and I'm probably on the minority here. But Kenley Jansen is a free agent, and I would love nothing more than to take a run at Kenley Jansen and have that right-handed closer and kind of bump everybody back. But you've got Will under contract for another year. Barring any big moves, he's your closer. Matzik is dominant in his role. Why mess with it?
And I can agree with that. He looks to me like, from the eye test, he's like closer material. But I mean, he's working. Like, why like they did with Hader a few years before he became the closer. Why not save Matzik for those high leverage innings, whether it's the 7th, 8th, or 9th? You know, even 6th.
Yeah, I mean, put your best pitcher in when their best hitters are up.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'll start with you, Jerry. I'm going to ask you guys, give me one bold prediction for 2022.
Does it? You mean during the season?
Your
Anything?
bold prediction for the 2022 Atlanta Braves.
Boy, you're putting me on the spot now, aren't you? Let's see here.
You can defer to one of the others and think about it if anyone else is ready to jump in.
Yeah, is anyone else ready to jump in? Give me a few minutes to think about it.
Sure, I will.
Yeah.
I'll say my bold prediction is that the Braves will win their division again, but they're going to win it with 90 wins, because a lot of people were talking about how terrible the National League East was, but in actuality, the teams were so even that they were eating each other alive. Strength of schedule is a real thing. I don't know why people don't talk about it in baseball like they do college football. Atlanta Braves had a much tougher schedule than the teams in the American League Central, the National League Central. And then you had the teams like the Dodgers that got to play the Diamondbacks and Colorado Rockies 30 times a year almost, you know? So before the Nationals sold off, they were a decent team. I mean, the National League East is a very even. I'm not going to say it's the best conference, but it's a very even conference. And because of that, the Braves, unless, you know, there is going to be stuff that happens in the offseason, but I'm going to say that the Braves are going to win their division, but it's going to be with a low win total, just like it was this past year.
I've been telling people out on the show all year about the NL East, because the Marlins, who came off of a playoff run in the COVID season, and then the Nats until they kind of sold some pieces. You look at the schedule with our division play, there was no clear cut, oh, I'm going to sweep this series. You didn't have the Orioles. You didn't have the Diamondbacks. You didn't have teams like that on the schedule that we could just dominate. And to me, the 88 wins was a pure reflection of our division and the fact that the whole division was competitive. So I agree with you 100%. And I felt like it showed, because we came in, we was completely the underdog against the Brewers and that pitching staff. We beat them, we beat the Dodgers, and then we ended up beating the Astros. So I felt like we was more battle tested along the way, because, and not only to mention that, the NL East has some of the best starting pitching in the game that we saw week after week.
Right. And at one point, I believe it was right before the trade deadline, every single team in the National League East was within 2 games of being 500 against each other. So they're about as evenly matched as you could possibly get.
All right, Jordan, what's your bold prediction?
Bold prediction, I agree. Braves are going to win the division for the 5th year, and Max Fried's going to win the Cy Young.
Cy Young for Max. Like it. What do you think, Jerry? You got yours now? You ready?
Yeah, I think so. I want to go with the. I want to go with the bold prediction here. Tucker Davidson. I'm a big fan of Tucker Davidson. What I saw last year. I know he didn't have a great time in the playoffs, and that was because he hasn't pitched since like June or July or something. First time pitching, but Tucker Davidson, I want to say top 3 rookie of the year next year, and I think he could. I'm going to say he wins 10 to 15 games, and Braves again, like the other two, go to the playoffs for 5th straight year.
I love the fact if he does show up like that, but then again, someone would have to get hurt for him to do that. So that would scare me all in the same. I don't know. But
well, he could be the number 5 starter. I mean, he could probably be the number 5 starter behind the other 4. So
Well, also the way that the Braves do things is they don't run a typical 5-man rotation.
Right.
Typically do a 5-man rotation with a 6, like they basically do a 5.5-man rotation. They normally do 5 spot start 5 spot start 5. So there's plenty of room, and Tucker Davidson still has options left in the minor leagues. So we are definitely going to see Tucker Davidson next year.
that's why I said it was bold.
there you go. I like it. I like it. Mine is that Austin Riley will have 44 home runs next year.
Whoa. Okay.
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know why, and I can't tell you why. I would have never thought he'd have been a 300 hitter the way he kept chasing sliders, but he evolved, man, and he made the adjustment after they made the adjustment, and he looks like the total package, man. So I'm a big believer in Austin Riley, and the folks that were like, you can't let Donaldson leave. Look at it now in perspective.
Just look at the money difference.
Absolutely. So the last thing for you guys, I appreciate you guys coming on the show. It's been awesome. I want you all to give your pitch to your groups, and let's so people can check it out on Facebook. So, Jordan, you want to start out and tell people about your group?
Yeah, I got 2 groups I want to plug. Obviously, Tomahawk Talk has been around for 2 years now. So if you haven't checked out Tomahawk Talk, please come and join us. We're going to start adding some more stuff in the coming weeks and months. Live videos, Q&As, draft coverage. We're gonna start to grow it. And also, please check out Braves Tama blog, BravesToma blog. Chet, Jack, Zach, and myself do some wonderful writing over there. Got over 9,000 viewers now. It's not a page where you can post, but it's a page where you can read incredible content.
What about you, Jerry? You want to give a shout out to your group?
Yes. Our group is a Brave support group. And I'd like to also give a shout out to the other admin who couldn't do it today, which is why I get a chance to be here today. Chris Hayes, he's the other admin, and we do a contest throughout the year. And Chris has been willing to give prizes out of his Brave stash he has at the house as rewards for the contest for whoever. We usually do a prediction contest at the beginning of the year. We do game threads every game throughout the year, and we have a great time in those threads just to get to know each other and to root on our Braves that we so much love.
Like I said, that's probably the first Braves group I've been a part of, so I appreciate it, Jerry.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Sam, what you got for your group?
All right, I got a few groups a few things to plug here. Atlanta Braves Dugout, I've been part of that group for years now. I'm an admin over there. And one thing that I really love about that group is that we have an active group of moderators and admin team that we are constantly in the background in a Facebook chat where we're constantly making sure that no one's being disrespectful to each other. Like our rule is you can have any opinion you want about the Braves, whether it's positive, negative, indifferent, as long as you're respectful to the other members of the group, you can talk about it. And I've always enjoyed that. And we do things like we have trivia, we have This Day in History. I run the Braves Dugout podcast, and so it spawned from that group. And I put weekly episodes out there for people to listen to. And I also write for Sports Talk ATL and Tomahawk Take. and I am always putting articles in those groups for that as well. So it's a lot of fun. I think all of these groups, these 3 groups right here, are the main ones that I participate in because they're good groups. Tomahawk Take 'em. I love the stuff. The people there are so active, which I love. And then Brave Support Group. I've been part of that group for a while now, and everyone's so respectful there. And so yeah, that's the groups, and I hope you guys will join us.
As I said, guys, I appreciate the time. It is great to finally be on top of that mountain where we can stick our chest out for 1 full year. And Jordan, I see you ready to. Oh, you had something to say, or you're just saying we're number one?
Just number one. Finally, we finally have it.
We get to do this for a full year. It feels good. You know, first time it's happened in my adult life. I don't quite know how to act.
What do I do with my hands?
Exactly. So I appreciate it, guys. You guys have been awesome. We will edit the show. We'll post it tomorrow. I'll post it on We Don't Know Sports. And I'll also post the links to your groups on there as well for people to check out to try to get more members for each group. But until next time, guys, I'd love to do it again in the spring, maybe do a spring training episode. Do it one more time. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining in, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Guys.
See ya.